Oh, okie dokie. Right. Moonraker. So, James Bond goes into outer space for the first time, and he never ever goes into outer space ever again, which is unfortunate because I think he could go to outer space again. In fact, I believe there was. I've heard something that originally the idea of Daniel Craig in the last film he did. Originally, I think the idea was to kill him off in space. I think. I think that was the idea. Again, that could just be a rumor or could be bullshit. I don't know. So, Moonraker. Yeah. I mean, this whole film kind of, I think it is kind of just surrounded by the whole debate of should James Bond go into outer space? Does it work with James Bond? Does space work with James Bond? The answer is not simple. The answer is not yes or no. Again, it depends on the film's tone and how they do it, and how they do space, Because I think if they were going to do James Bond again now, going into outer space, it would probably be similar to like Interstellar or The Martian or Gravity or something like that. Like they would have that kind of special effects and that technology. It wouldn't feel silly. It would be sort of realistic, sort of, or it would try to be at least a little bit realistic, and not trying to be like Star Wars. And yeah, of course, yeah. Let's get into that. So the reason why this film was made and the reason why they took James Bond into outer space was because of Star Wars. Star Wars was such a huge box office success in 1977, and I think this film came out in 1978 or 9. So they were like, right, yeah, we need to send James Bond into outer space, and we need to just try and capitalize on the whole space sci-fi thing. And yeah, so that all takes place though, the whole space stuff takes place in like at like the third act of the film. Leading up to that, you kind of get a good, I would say, leading up to that moment, you get a pretty good, fun James Bond film just without space. I think the villain is really, really good. Yeah, Hugo Drax, Michael Lonsdale. He's a pretty good villain. I like the way he speaks. He's just sort of like, hello, Mr. Bond. And then you got this Bond girl. She's got a funny name, Dr. Holly Goodhead. So, a good head. Yes. What else do you want me to say about that? But yeah, she's called Goodhead. And the film actually starts out with a pretty amazing stunt where like he jumps out of a plane without a parachute. And that's cool. And that's another thing I want to talk about as well. Stunts. The franchise, like after the last one, with the whole stunt of him parachuting off the cliff, I feel like they started to like ramp up the stunts, the spectacle, the big like people jumping off cliffs and shit, you know what I mean? Yeah, there was some stunts before. There were stunts like, in the Sean Connery era, but nothing like this. Nothing like really, really crazy, like people jumping out of aeroplanes and shit. And then Jaws obviously like is there. Jaws comes back, and you can definitely tell as well. You can definitely tell that there's the guy doing the parachuting. That's not Richard Keel. Yeah, that's obviously a stunt guy. And obviously yes, the Roger Moore era, like you can definitely tell it's a stunt double. Many times, multiple times you can just go, oh yeah, that's a stunt man. It gets worse actually as it goes along. As he gets older, it gets worse with the whole spotting the stunt double. But anyway, yeah. After that, he goes and meets the villain, meets Dr. Goodhead, blah blah blah. He gets a gadget shooty thing with his watch. That's pretty cool. And then there's actually a moment that I actually really, really like in this film where Roger Moore does show like a little bit of like vulnerability. Like there's a bit where because obviously it's all to do with space, obviously. Those like how they train space astronauts, like they've got that thing that they put him in, and it goes really, really fast. And it's to help you get used to the G-force or whatever, or something or other. Anyway, I'd like to try that one day. I'd like to try that. But anyway, they put him in it, and he goes around really, 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 really fast. And it's like, and somebody sneaks in and speeds it up, which is bad. Anyway, he genuinely looks worried in that, and he passes out, and then when he gets out of the thing, he's genuinely like, it's sort of like almost like what the hell? And you don't really sort of see that much with Roger Moore. He always just kind of seems like he's on top of everything, if you know what I mean. And he always just seems like he knows what to do, and he knows the next move, and he knows what's going on. Whereas this, he was just sort of like, what? What just happened? Yeah. But anyway, Dr. Goodhead is there to give him some help. But anyway, yeah, then when we get through all that, it's kind of just like your standard James Bond film. There's a nice bit in Venice. It's fun. He fights a Japanese dude who's got like a samurai stick. Yeah, that's all good. And of course, Roger Moore shags a load of women. Jaws shows up and bites a woman, which we completely forget about when we get to the end of the film, when Jaws suddenly becomes a good guy and he meets a girl, he falls in love. He there's a love story, there's a romance for him, and this movie is goofy as fuck. It is honestly so out there, and it's a silly film, and they haven't sent James Bond into space since this film. And I think they should do it again, because I think they could do it again and try and make it a little bit more serious, less kind of like we're trying to make it a sci-fi, and more kind of fact, if you know what I mean, more real, more grounded. There's a way of doing it. There's a way of doing astronauts in space and doing it realistic. Interstellar is a good example. You could do it like that. But the music is good. John Barry is back for this one, and he does a good song. He just does some good music for this film. Like when you get into space, it's very awe-inspiring, and yeah, it's all just fun. And it again, the ending, it's very much like the whole film is structured almost exactly like The Spy Who Loved Me. In fact, it's the same director, but like the good guy army guys show up, but it's in space, and then the bad guys, they're there and they're all shooting each other with lasers and stuff. It just turns into Star Wars at the end. But I remember watching this as a little kid and thinking, wow, this is awesome. They're in space. We're in space, and it's like, what? James Bond doesn't go into outer space, but here he does. Yeah. Well, I never. Anyway, what's your thoughts on James Bond going to space? Comment below. Please do actually comment, because I get very upset when people don't comment. Yeah, Moonraker. Shirley Bassey does a song again. It's not Goldfinger or Diamonds Are Forever, but it's all right. It's not the worst, not the best, but also I forgot to mention as well in the last one, is Spy Who Loved Me. I forgot to mention Harry Saltzman, I think, is no longer in control. I think because it's all Albert R. Broccoli now. He owns the whole thing, really. I think, well, he doesn't own the whole thing, but like I think because Harry Saltzman sold his half of the rights to like MGM or something, or yeah, which was kind of a bit of a backstabby sort of thing to do, but either way, that's a whole different story, and I'm just gonna leave it there now. I'm gonna leave it there. Oh yes, forgot to mention, I think as well, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the last film with Bernard Lee, who played M. I don't think he's in the next one. I might be mistaken. Am I mistaken? I'm checking IMDb. Yeah, this was his last film as M, and then I think it says here he died in 1981. So that's a shame. So he's played M in every single movie up until this point. So that's kind of a shame. But they get a new guy who's pretty good. He does all the rest of the movies with Roger and then with Timothy Dalton. But yes. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now about this wonderful space movie, and we're going to talk about the next movie in the James Bond franchise. Yes. Because I don't just do funny phone call videos. That's not all I do. I do reviews. I do movie reviews as well. We're going through every James Bond. So please continue watching. Thank you. Right. Bye-bye. Bye.